Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you getting on our industry update for the last week of August. John and Melissa will be navigating through the federal, state, and local, and then we'll be talking, taking chat questions at the end. Please be sure to mute all your phone lines and use the chat feature only for asking questions. With that, I'm going to turn this over to John.
Thank you, Hope, and welcome everyone. I'm glad to have you with us again this week. I would remind you that today's session is designed for the benefit of our restaurant, hotel, travel and tourism, and allied partners, and that this is an off-the-record chat today. And if there's anyone from the press that's on the call, please disconnect. We'd be happy to talk with you anytime. Just call either Melissa or me or Steph Watterson in our communications department. So with that, thank you again for being here today. And Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Update today, I have discovered Zoom backgrounds and I've downloaded like 8 of them already. So if you have any really awesome Zoom backgrounds, please send them my way. Also, I had a voice of concern from Eric. If Macy does decide to make an appearance, I will turn off the Zoom background. So you're not going to miss out on any opportunities if Macy deigns to appear for all of you. Currently, she's sleeping. Good morning. Welcome back for another week. A little bit of updates on everything. Some updating things I discussed last week, but per usual, we will jump right into the federal update. There's nothing happening right now, really. There was really nothing happening last week in terms of mainstream media, or this week, just kidding. We are in the middle of now the Republican convention, which has really stalled all of the conversations that have been occurring on Capitol Hill. The House did return last week to pass a package to help the United States Postal Service. The Senate has made it very clear that they will not pass that package, and the president has also made clear that he would veto said package if it ever got to him. So we're kind of back to where we didn't want to be before, which was we knew we needed to get a federal, the COVID-4 package, the HOPE package done before they went into conventions. That didn't happen. Negotiations stalled. We still have the House looking for $3 trillion. We have the Senate sitting at about $1 trillion, and they haven't quite figured out how to meet in the middle. This does not mean that things aren't going to happen. It just unfortunately means it's not going to happen right now. They will pass something before the election. They have to. Democrats need to pass something if they're running for re-election. Republicans have to pass something if they're running for re-election, because right now they all need whatever they can to say that they're doing something to help the business community, people collecting unemployment, and everything in between. And these packages are going to be really important in terms of getting to that point. Some things that were included in the previous package, we expect them to stay in this package, is a second round of the P3. So that is expected no matter what package they pass. It's expected to contain a second round of P3. For those of you who drew down on the first time, you could draw down a second time. For our 501c6s, our destination marketing organizations, you are still included in this package. You've been included from the beginning. So when you've been in it this long, it means that it's agreed to. So I'm optimistic that that will also be included in the final package. All of these other things that we're discussing, specific restaurant recovery items, the Restaurants Act, that $120 billion. Again, we're running into that problem. If we do one specific package that helps our industry, what other industry needs help as well? And of course, we're seeing the airlines want another $25 billion just to bail themselves out. So we aren't necessarily going to go down that specific path, but continuing down the path of trying to get as much tax relief grant programs generally for our industry as we can. And we do expect Congress to return, probably not until September, but we expect those negotiations to pick up once the Republican convention ends this week, with hopefully final passage of the next package in September. So that's the timeline that we're operating in right now. You all see it on the news. You don't even need to watch the conventions at night if you don't want to, because there's a summary every morning of every single person who talked. The conventions are the name of the game right now. So that's why we're not seeing a lot of action. That's really why we have been stalled, is because we had the Democratic convention last week, the Republican convention this week. But I'll reiterate it again. They all need something. I mean, President Trump needs something. And while the Democrats might not want to give him something to help with his reelection, the Democrats running for reelection need something too. So we will see another package. I think that there is broad agreement that there will be one. We just don't know what it's going to look like yet. FYI, it's going in our update today. Actually, the link's been sent out, so I don't know if Steph wants to include it here, or Ben. The National Restaurant Association is doing another survey, another impact survey. You all participated in one of these surveys back in April to talk about the impact COVID had on you in March. They released another survey in May. Please, 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 I don't care if you're a restaurant, a hotel, or anything, please take the time to complete this survey. I cannot express to you enough how impactful that data is in our legislative efforts and communicating to legislators and getting the press coverage we need to get you the statewide relief that you need. So please take that survey. That data is just, it's Pennsylvania. It's specific to us. They break it down for us specifically, and John and I use it everywhere once we get that data. And that is going to be the backbone really of us moving our legislative package over the next few weeks, is the data that the National Restaurant Association is able to collect from you over the next few days. So please, Steph did put a link in the chat box. So please, please, please take that survey. If we don't get enough data, it doesn't help you get what you need to get through all of this. So and AHLA, I know the American Hotel and Lodging Association, U.S. Travel, the Asian American Hotel Owners Association, they're doing surveys. For a lot of those, they have some of that data, especially from Smith Travel and some of these other research groups. So that's why you might not be seeing as much survey help from those organizations, because they have a lot of it already and they can access a lot of it. But anytime you get asked to participate in a survey, please do so. It goes a long way in terms of helping us. Let's talk about the state. The state got a little rowdy this week. So the House has announced that they're coming back to session next week. The House actually was not supposed to return to session until the 15th. They are coming in actually this Friday for non-voting, which is basically moving bills, doing things that they can't do unless they gavel in. And then they're coming back next Tuesday and Wednesday for session. So their bills are going to be flying. The House there's election bills that are going to be moving. There's our recovery bills that I'm going to review again. So we have a lot of action that is going to be happening over the next few weeks. And to that end, it was in our update yesterday. It was all over the media. Governor Wolf came out yesterday with a legislative package that has, it's even beyond everything in the kitchen sink. I mean, it's literally every wish list that you could ask for, including hazard pay for frontline workers, PPE, access to childcare. For my licensees, he would like to get rid of the Johnstown flood tax for 6 months and then get rid of your markups on alcohol, grants, loans, I mean, just literally everything, including paid parental leave, 6 weeks of paid parental leave mandated on all businesses. That one is not supplemented by any grant or tax money. The backbone of all of this is his hope to, one, use CARES Act money, which we support grant programs that do that, but also to legalize recreational marijuana. That's your stick right now. I mean, that you're not going to have a Republican-controlled House or Senate interested in passing recreational marijuana a few weeks before an election. So the package is large. It's very inclusive. It's everything that I think the governor could want. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't include some type of funding mechanism like he has put forward, it really isn't going to see the light of day. And of course, we've seen some pretty swift responses from the Republicans. That does not mean a package isn't going to get across the finish line. It just means that, as we all know, the governor shoots all the way up here, the House and Senate leadership seated all the way over here, and then they meet somewhere in the middle. And those are the discussions that are happening right now. So take a look at that. Like I said, there is lots of stuff in there to help our industry, but then there's also a lot of mandates as well that are included that are not short-term, like COVID recovery. So we really have to be careful in terms of our industry. Do we want financial help now, but then have financial concerns later with some of these items included? Or do we want a package that really is holistic and helps us get through this crisis? To the end, we did include in the legislative update last week, I talked about these, the Pennsylvania restaurant recovery, our list of bills that PRLA is advocating for. We do have, it's actually, you can't see it because I have a background, but it's the Pennsylvania recovery package, and it comes in color. I just have a black and white printer, and it lists all of the bills that we are advocating for in our roundtables, which I will touch upon in a moment. These pieces of legislation, and I talked about this in our first roundtable yesterday, are very specific. So, and I've said this, I think, in the past to some of you. I just mentioned the governor is shooting for the stars with his legislative package. The House and Senate are shooting for the stars with theirs. We can't afford to ask for the sun and the moon and the stars and spend months in negotiations trying to get you all the help that you need. We don't have time for that. And quite honestly, the longer we take to get something done, the more people stick their fingers in it and muck it all up for us. So this package that we put together is really specific in terms of getting you the help that you need in terms of tax relief and grants, and giving you waivers on fees for your licenses, giving you interest-free loan options, increasing the licensee discount, giving you those financial assistance that you need without being so far-reaching that it doesn't go anywhere. And it is a bipartisan package of bills, and I'm going to touch upon the bipartisanship in a moment. And Steph did share the priorities, so I'm not going to go into them in detail today because you have all seen them. But there's tons of bills out there, really great bills that would absolutely help the industry. And there are other things like constitutional amendment changes and getting rid of the governor's authority to have a state of emergency, all of which have gone to the courts and been shot down. Not saying those are not valid things to pursue, but aligning with those right now and making them a top PRLA priority, one, won't get it across the finish line, and two, it's just going to burn bridges when we're trying to get you the financial and legislative assistance that you need right now. So that is why we were really specific in developing these priorities and sharing the impact this COVID has had on our industry. So with that being said, last week I announced our regional roundtables, and I think we can go to the next slide and I'll talk through everything else. We had our first one yesterday, Southern Chapter. We have two more today. Brandywine is at 1 o'clock, Lancaster is at 3 o'clock. And I want to say this. I have never, PRLA, for those of you who have been active members of PRLA, we've had roundtables every single year. And we always get a good turnout. You know, we are an association that represents a huge industry, and legislators are interested in that. I have never seen so much bipartisan response to our roundtables than I have seen as it pertains to COVID and our legislative package. I know we have said for a long time, the Republicans are always on our side. We have to convince the Democrats that maybe the governor isn't always right and we need their help. And we are seeing that interest, I think, from Democrats in terms of our roundtables. For Brandywine today, I actually have more Democrats registered than Republicans for that roundtable. So this is a huge opportunity for us to tout the fact that our association is bipartisan, this package is bipartisan, and we cannot survive at 25%. And we're seeing these letters from these Democratic delegations in support of our industry. And these roundtables, like I said, sometimes I feel like it's pulling teeth to try and get Republicans and Democrats there. And the response to this has been phenomenal in terms of their interest and them wanting to know how they can help. So like I said, I know some of you want us to shoot for the sun and the moon and the stars with this legislative package, but this package is drawing the bipartisan support we need. We think it's going to put the pressure that we need on the governor to see that if we move a bill that is 50% occupancy for events and restaurants, or move a bill that's social distancing and barriers, and it has bipartisan support, we will see the movement of the needle that we've seen in the past, which is with the realtors and some of the other items that the governor might not like it, but it makes more sense for him to change the position and find a way to get us reopened without having a bill on his desk that he has to veto and potentially we override. So we've been very upfront with the governor's office. They know that this is our plan. I think they understand that we have to do this. Every day, our businesses are closing. We have no time to waste. And this package is designed to get bipartisan support, move quickly when they return to session, and get the message across to everybody that we need their help. And that's via these roundtables, via PR, and everything in between. So if you have not registered for a roundtable and you see your region up there, please do so. Like I said, turnout from the legislative piece has been really phenomenal. And you can see, if you're not on last week's call, what chapter you would fall into. I have invited everybody, every legislator for the one scheduled through next Tuesday have been invited, and I'll be inviting the rest of the roundtables, hopefully today, in between our two roundtables we have scheduled today. So please, and I'll say this again too, I shouldn't have to say boo on these roundtables because you all have plenty to share. This isn't, I'm not comfortable talking about hotel taxes or tourism funding because I don't know it that well. You have been experiencing COVID. You have been financially experiencing the impact of COVID. So when you're on these webinars, John and I shouldn't have to say a thing. We really need you to voice the impact and why these pieces of legislation are really important, especially the reopening pieces in terms of that. I think that is a whole lot of information on state updates and chapter roundtables. So please, if you haven't registered, please do so. If we get too many people on a roundtable, we'll do breakout sessions. We will make it work. So in Southern, like I said, we had Southern yesterday and I think it went really well. Okay, let's talk about reopening. State, I don't know, John, if you have anything to offer on the state front other than not much change, if you want to cover that one.
Well, thank you, Melissa. As I told you last week, the governor's office had reached out to us and reinstituted formal conversations about particularly getting restaurants open. And just to remind you that beyond the legislative packages, which are extremely important, and particularly getting the Democrats behind us, as Melissa already described, we have basically four priorities. One is to get back to at least 50%. One is to return bar seating. The original package allowed for seating, no seat, no service, so bar seating, there wouldn't have been congregating anyway. To raise the interior cap for discrete events, as the governor calls them, private events, over what it was before. Like what it was before, and then also to decouple the need to buy food with alcohol. Again, if you have no seat, no service, which was part of the original package, there shouldn't be a concern about congregating at the bar. So that's what we're working on. The governor's office reinstituted negotiations. We have regular contact with a senior person from his team. And in my last communication with her, she said internally they're stalled right now. So in other words, there's disagreement internally. So obviously that's an issue. That makes all these roundtables that much more important, and it makes our outreach to the court of public opinion even more important. There's an a op-ed that actually dropped yesterday. The York Daily Record picked it up. It'll be in the Enquirer tomorrow and then anywhere else in the state from us about specifically with the York said how Governor Wolf's arbitrary mandate continues to destroy Pennsylvania's restaurant industry. I'll drop the link in the chat feature if you want to read it, if you didn't see it this morning. So we're continuing to work in the court of public opinion. We're continuing to speak with the governor's office, and they understand that we're not going to let up until we get to the point where we can safely get restaurants reopened so they can survive. As Melissa pointed out, every day, more restaurants announce permanent closure. We just heard from Jack Cohen out in Butler County that there was an article in the Pittsburgh paper that said 136 restaurants in Pittsburgh are permanently closed already. So that's there's going to be many more than that if we don't get them open at some capacity soon. So with that, Melissa, I'll turn it over to you. And then if there's anything else you want me to cover at any point, just call on me.
Okay. Not much change in Allegheny County. I will say that nothing has changed in Allegheny County. I've gotten a few heads up that there are events and things that are happening that are exceeding the 50-person outdoor abilities. I've gotten a few heads up on some entities that think they're getting creative in terms of indoor and beating the 25-person limit for indoor events. Nothing has changed in Allegheny County. So, and it's, I think some of it is just like brides come and say, my baker told me that this is a change, and trying to convince you of it. If anything changes in Allegheny County, we'll tell you. Again, per usual, Allegheny County has a press conference at 4 o'clock every Wednesday. We're not expecting any changes on that front today. So Allegheny County is still the same. I will say, for those of you that have turned over some bad actors in the Allegheny County area, so odd, none of them are PRLA members. They have been turned over to the LCE. Some of the most terrifying voicemails I've gotten in the last week is when I get a voicemail that says, "Hi, Melissa, this is Officer so-and-so from the state police," but they are investigating everything. So if you do have a bad actor in your area, like I said, I've gotten a bunch out in the western part of the state. If you do send it to me, I'll be the bad guy. I will talk to the state police. Even though my heart stops when I hear the word officer on my voicemail, I will continue to handle those for you. So don't hesitate to send any of those concerns to me. Philadelphia. Sorry, Philadelphia. You can have indoor dining beginning on September 8th, as of right now, August 26th at 11:22 a.m. So indoor dining is going to be permitted in Philadelphia. It's going to be at 25% capacity. A few of you have started doing like charts of how different rules in different parts of the state are different, and Philadelphia is different. Few things, and I want to caveat all of this. I'm going to do a brief 10,000-foot overview, and I know the Philadelphia Commerce Department is on this call, so I'll do a shout out here. The Health Department, Dr. Palak Raval Nelson is going to be doing another webinar for PRLA members. Well, everybody, we invite everybody to it, specifically about indoor dining and to answer questions. And she would like to do that obviously before September 8th. So your super nitty-gritty questions, we will be setting up that webinar as soon as we get some dates from her of what will work. So we will be doing a webinar to cover all of this. A few things for Philadelphia specifically that I want to touch upon. There is, before all of this happened, Philadelphia has said that 50 people is the maximum amount you can have in terms of your dining ability. So if you have more than 50 seats set up outside of your restaurant because you did a kick butt job in terms of expanding your outside premise, you actually need permission from the city of Philadelphia to do that. So they're saying if you have less than 50 seats, you're fine. If you want to have more than 50 seats, you need to inform them and let them know how you're going to be safe about the fact that you're going to have more than 50 people there. So they have put out an application to do that, to get permission to have more than 50 seats. So that actually happened before the announcement last week. Two, some basic overviews. September 8th is when restaurants will be able to do inside dining. It is going to be 25% capacity, same as the state. Few changes. You can only have 4 people at a table, so you cannot have more than 4 seats at any single table. And we have since confirmed this. Philadelphia is the only place in the entire nation that is requiring face shields and face masks to be worn by employees for inside dining purposes. So Philadelphia is setting new boundaries in terms of that. Also for Philadelphia, for my hotels, right now it's going to be following the state. 25 is going to be your limit in terms of your indoor capacity. You can't have a group larger than 25. Keep in mind, this is inclusive of staff. We are bringing back dance floor gate in Philadelphia because Philadelphia has said that customers must be seated at all times. They cannot do anything other than get up and walk in and out of the restaurant or go to the bathroom. So dance floor gate has started again in Philadelphia in terms of no dance floors. Our understanding will not be allowed in Philadelphia. Another change that Steph Otterson, our Director of Communications, did a great job of what I like to call me trying to articulate the rules in Philadelphia and make them understandable. There are changes in terms of dining and when you need to close. So for those of you that have that short-term outdoor seating, that you have to close at 10 p.m. So if you apply for that short term because of COVID in Philadelphia for the sidewalk cafes or the parklets, on September 8th, not now, September 8th, you're allowed to go until 11 p.m. Last seating is 11 p.m. You need to be empty of customers by midnight. This is also going to apply to indoor dining. And if you had an outdoor space that might have been able to be open until midnight, 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., that 11 p.m. rule is going to be universally applied to restaurants in Philadelphia. So your last seating is 11. People need to be cleared out in Philadelphia by midnight. Yes, it's different than Allegheny County. Isn't life grand? Allegheny County still has that hard stop at 11. So Allegheny County, everybody needs to be out by 11 p.m. So that's the difference between those two. I feel like sometimes, Dr. Farley, Dr. Bogan, and Dr. Levine all get together and think, how can we make Melissa's brain explode a little bit more? And then they all come up with different rules, and I have to try and keep track of them all. But Philadelphia, like I said, we will be doing a specific webinar. I've gotten a ton of questions. I know in Allegheny County, we had heard that maybe back of the house weren't being counted towards your capacity limit. They were only counting people touching the customers. I've asked if that's something that they would consider in Philadelphia. For many of you, 25% doesn't mean anything if you have to include all of your back of the house and front of the house staff. We've asked clarification on what capacity is. Is it fire code? Is it occupancy? Some of you have different capacities depending. So all of these are questions that we will be doing a deep dive with the city when we have that webinar. And then before we go, and I'm sure I'm going to get lots of questions and I'm going to do my best to answer them. Before we go to upcoming webinars, I want to highlight one of the upcoming webinars for those of you that have participated in the past. You'll notice on PRLA's legislative priorities, we did not list business interruption insurance, which is a huge issue still for all of you. You filed your claims, the insurance company said no thank you, good luck to you, and turned their backs. There is legislation out there relating to business interruption insurance. It's a heavy lift, and quite honestly, there's just not the drive within the legislature to get it across the finish line. If we sense there's a drive, I'm all in. Trust me, I'm all in for it. But in the interim, there are lawsuits and there are legal paths that are being explored. So we had a webinar a few months ago with a few law firms that were talking about some of the legal paths that they were moving forward with on behalf of businesses that could not collect their business interruption insurance. And there will be a webinar tomorrow to provide an update on where the legal processes are on that front. So if this is of interest to you, please make sure you register for that webinar tomorrow, which, if we can go to the next slide, I think is at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. Yes, it is. So that's for your business interruption claims and where do they stand. So I urge you to register for that. If that is of interest for you, it will be an update on where things are. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to John actually there is a typo on there for the future. It's BLCE. And that I'll do a quick plug for that too. That is going to be on September 10th. This is going to be an overview of when the state police come into your establishment, what are the general violations that they're finding more than any other? What are you getting cited for? What are they seeing in restaurants more than any other? There will be some talk about COVID specific things, but it will be an overview of the LCE and what they're seeing. So with that, I'll turn it over to Hope or John to go over the other webinars and whatever other slides we have.
Thanks, Melissa. Nice job as always. I'd like to turn it over to Hope, but before I do that, I just want to highlight the one on August 31st that Chip Rogers is moderating. Chip is, as you probably well know by now, the President and CEO of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. I've been able to tune into some of his sessions with folks, and they're always terrific. So if you have an opportunity, you should try to get on that August 31st one.
Well,
Thank you.
Melissa and
I'll
John have
you're
covered a lot of the webinar stuff already. But, we'll be back next week with Melissa, and, we do have other ones up on our website. Please check that out. What I would really like to highlight is the virtual experiences for students and supporting your local schools. A lot of the culinary and hospitality programs are either working remotely or hybrid. Some are coming back in person, but most are working on a hybrid and are not seeing that their students are going to be able to go out on field trips or have guest speakers come in. So they are looking for virtual experiences to help keep their students connected with the industry. We have sent out through the daily update an online form where you can fill that out and send in your information, and I will contact you about next steps. But please think about getting involved. And if you want to do it on your own outside of the form, please just reach out to your local schools and see what those culinary and hospitality teachers need on a high school and post-secondary level. Also, with training solutions, I wanted to remind everybody about ServSafe classes. With Philadelphia opening up indoor on the 8th, I would definitely start looking at the classes that are coming up in Philadelphia. We have one next week on the 2nd. Every month we have one in Philadelphia or around the surrounding area. So please make sure that your staff is up to date with their ServSafe certificates or their certification, at least for your establishment. And again, just to reiterate, the safe stay and ServSafe dining commitments, which we think are great companions to our PA restaurant promise and PA hotel promise. They're great training pieces that can provide confidence to the customers of the additional work that you're doing to make them safe and the employees safe during their dining experience. Next slide, Eric. I think Melissa will be getting to the chat, but just if you want to subscribe to our daily update, that is how you can get your name and email in there. And if you have questions where you'd like to submit to us offline from this particular webinar, we always have the question feature on our website where you can submit and we will get back to you about the answers. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Melissa if you're ready.
I am. Let's rock and roll. We're at 11:32. We might have this wrapped up by noon, knock on wood. I think I did cover the P3 loans or grants, and then we have from Michelle, I haven't studied it yet, but CDC recently updated guidance regarding masking and social distancing enforcement and violence. They have provided some guidance on that front. Also, we did a webinar 2 weeks ago-ish that talked about how to handle and de-escalate kind of the mask situation. I would say take this CDC guidance is great, but we are seeing the CDC, an announcement was made today where the CDC changed some of its testing requirements and people's heads exploded. The CDC is guidance, but states can have more stringent requirements or guidance in place. And quite frankly, Pennsylvania is more stringent than almost any CDC guidance that you will see. So when you see CDC, it's similar to what we're seeing in terms of restaurant guidance. Whatever's the most restrictive is what you need to follow. So this is just politics, unfortunately. Is the second round of the P3 less likely to be approved if a business already received the P3 from the first round? No, there is specific language and we haven't seen how it's going to look, but the second round is for those who got it in the first round. So it would be a second drawdown. It probably wouldn't be for another full 8 weeks. It might be for a lesser amount of time, or it could be a different type of amount that it's based off of, but they all do have specific provisions in Republican and Democratic packages that allow a second drawdown. So if you drew down the first time, you would be able to draw down a second time. And to that end, I know some of you, this has been a bit of a frustration. A lot of those county grants and state grants that are out there, they're saying that you will not be first, they will not be given to you first if you already drew down on the P3. So some of those extra grants at the state level, we know that you're seeing some frustration with the fact that you drew down on the P3 to survive, and now the state and some of the counties are saying that you can't get their grants as well. So the second P3, I know is going to be really important for all of you. So keep an eye out for that. Will our 2020 taxes be impacted by the stimulus that we have received already or may receive in 2020? Meaning, are we going to have to pay them back at the end via taxes? This is from Kelly. taxes are a mess right now, and this is why I will never ever be an accountant. I'm happy when I can balance my checkbook. I can tell you that there are a slew of tax issues, similar to every bill that Congress passes. As they pass a bill and then they realize they forgot to check a box or do something. For example, a lot of that deductibility under the P3 that typically you would be able to deduct, but they said because the P3 is a forgivable loan, you can't deduct. We expect all of those to be addressed in this next package. So all of those tax loose ends, we do expect to be addressed so that you would not have to be paying them back in 2020. That is the expectation. That is the plan. But as John and I, and for those of you who are active with DC, I feel like they pass a bill, and sometimes even in Pennsylvania, it takes us 3 or 4 bills to actually get it fixed to be what they originally intended it to be. But the focus and the plan is to address those tax loose ends that are kind of hanging out there from the previous COVID packages. Any indication of when restaurants will go to 50% capacity? I might be too blunt. So John, do you want to answer this one?
I don't know how to do it other than bluntly. We're very frustrated by this, Sue. It's probably the most frustrating thing in my career with PRLA, 6 years. And we thought we were making real progress on it. We had every indication there were, and then all of a sudden in conversations internally, they're stuck. And I just do not believe they know what they're doing. And it's been impossible for us to make any progress here. So that's why the legislative roundtables, one of the reasons why we set them up, and there's great interest in them. There's a lot of work on our part on it, which is fine. And we're going to have at least 13 of them now, I believe. And that's going to be very helpful to try to continue to put pressure on. The only thing we can think to do is put pressure on, because the other thing, I know it was legislative priorities yesterday, but it was also priorities for the fall. There was no priority in the governor's message about getting businesses reopened. And as we've said many times, there's not enough money in the state to save the restaurant industry. They have to be open safely at a certain level that they can survive. So Sue, no, I don't have any indication. 10 days ago, I would have told you, I think it's going to be, I think we're getting very close. Now I have no idea.
I will echo. I mean, I think the hope here, and I think there is recognition. We saw it in the roundtable yesterday, is that we need to be back to 50% when it gets cold. We will not survive. The industry won't survive. And there is bipartisan support for that. This is really important. And that's why I don't like to get into on these roundtables, and I'll put a hard stop if it happens. You know, the Democrats weren't there when we needed them, or the Republicans didn't support the governor when we needed him to. This bipartisan, I've had Democrats that have agreed that we need to be back to 50%. So I think that legislative push is going to move the needle. And our goal is to get you back to a place that you can operate when it gets cold. And for some of you, cold is happening within the next few weeks. So are there current limitations regarding flea markets, whether indoor or outdoor? I feel like I might need to make a list of, like, these are the things I'm comfortable talking about. I got into a sports rabbit hole last week. Flea markets, I'm going to take a crack at it. If they are regularly done, you would be at 50% capacity for indoors if they're regularly operational. So they're not an event, they're not a gathering. Outdoor is your 250. So no more than 250 for outdoors. And that you can find on the mitigation list. It talks about events and things like that and what applies. And then, of course, I will say this again, you can always ask DCED for their opinion on what they believe is applicable or not. What is going on with gloves? The price has gone from $40 per case to around $140 per case. I haven't a clue, Tracy, what's going on with gloves, other than that seems price gougey to me. I will say, as it pertains to gloves, you have a 50% split on people that think that gloves are the greatest things in the world and you should wear them, and then others that are saying that it kind of leads to to complacency and that people aren't being as careful. So that is all I have, Tracy, for gloves. I can't speak to the increase in cost. Thank you, Philip. I gotta say, at the end of these roundtables, I might need another vacation, because we have like, most days we have 3 going, but thank you for everybody registering and make it worth it for us. And like I said, these meetings are happening right before they go back into session. So our issues are going to be front of mind for our legislators. Do you have any, this is a John question, because John knows all the data. So John, do you have any updated estimates about restaurant closure percentages in PA versus nationwide? And is the trend of closures increasing at an accelerated rate now that funding is dwindling and depleted?
Yeah, we don't have, the best data we've been able to come up with is the data we extrapolated from the Yelp survey that was done about now 3 weeks ago. Of nationwide, and then extrapolated to Pennsylvania. And you've seen these numbers, I'm sure, hundreds of times, that there could be as many as 7,500 restaurants, which would be a roughly 30% of the total, a little bit less than 30%. There was an article that was cited on our roundtable yesterday by one of the legislators that said that the number that they're talking about nationwide now is more like 60%. So I haven't seen that data yet. We continue to look for it. It's really hard data to get because surveys can't reach restaurants that have already closed because they're already gone. That's why the Yelp data was pretty significant when it came out. So that continues to be the number that we're using. When we worked it through with the editorial board at the Philadelphia Inquirer, we made a few tweaks to how we presented it, but they thought it was pretty good, I believe. So we'll see how that article, how that op-ed's updated as it comes out tomorrow. That'll probably be the best data we have right now, at least.
Okay. Is there any way to see a roster as to which elected officials have registered? Yes, Tim, your area is still coming in. We can share that. Heidi has been awesome at taking this on the day before you do get your talking points from us, and also per the request we had last week, you're getting a list of every legislator who's attending or who's sending staff, and then we also tell you who declined, just said a hard no, they didn't want to attend, those who had, I like to call them an excused absence, or those, we've actually had a few, I've had 3 today, that are on vacation when we're having our roundtable and have asked for a separate meeting just for them and their constituents. And we are doing that. I'm going to need, like I said, a vacation when this is over, but we are accommodating those legislators. And to be honest, they're all Democrats. They all want to meet with you. They all want to hear from you. So that's really important. Also, Leader Benninghoff would like his own meeting since he's unavailable next week for Keystone. We'll be setting up that as well. Okay, Kate, you sent me a novel. Let me see. I haven't read through it yet, so I might read it all and then say I don't know. On the July 22nd industry update call, I asked for further clarification about the performance of religious services under the orders that came from the offices of the governor in Allegheny County. Melissa was health department the week prior, Melissa was kind enough to confirm that a client of ours could host their daily worship because we were able to follow the CDC guidelines and no food or beverage would be provided. Later that week, I followed up with an epidemiologist from Allegheny Health Department who corroborated Melissa's statement. Whew, all right, I'm feeling better. However, another PA hospitality professional told my client yesterday that this is incorrect, citing the PA Health Department in Allegheny County. I'm at a loss for how to move forward now, but I'm hopeful you might be able to provide further guidance. Is there someone else at one of the previously mentioned organizations that I can contact? Yes, we can reach out to the health department. I am clear exemption for religion in state, and I am borderline 90% sure there's that clear exemption for religious gatherings in Allegheny County too. I'm fairly confident on that, Kate, but we can ask them to agree with that again. But there has been a blanket exemption for religious gatherings. Like I said, I think I talked about it last week, don't have a 150 person wedding and then think you can have a 150 person reception. But we can get that confirmation from the health department, but I'm still pretty confident that that's universal. Steph, thank you for sharing the application for 50 people. Are the roundtables full audio or is it chat based? Both. It's going to depend a lot of it. Like I said, if we get, some chapters are just huge. For example, Philadelphia, depending on legislators and attendees, we might do breakout rooms to make it a little bit more manageable. Predominantly they're full audio, and what I do is I'll do a brief intro and I open it up for you to engage. They don't need you to write them a novel. We want them to hear your voice. We want legislators to know where you're from and the impact this has had. We've had some, for example, if somebody wants to get in line for a comment or want to make a statement in response to something, they use the chat feature for that. But we are doing full audio and chat comboed with a focus on full audio in the roundtables. And not full audio like Melissa speaks the whole time. You've just heard me for 45 minutes. So I'm going to try and phone this one in, the two this afternoon. Are there any conversations regarding a % of revenue decline for a second round of P3 is simply flawed? We don't, to be honest, I can't speak with authority of how the second round of P3 is going to be. It might be another full 8 weeks. It's going to be more focused on industries that are struggling more than those who drew down on the P3 when we probably could say they didn't need it. But none of that has been flushed out, Susan. So I can't speak how that's going to look because they're still negotiating through all of that.
Hey, Melissa, if she's referring to how much decline you have to have in your revenue to be eligible, the National Restaurant Association is taking that on big time, and that's a top priority of theirs, is to get it to a reasonable level. It's at, the proposal right now is at 50%, but as Melissa said, it's very early in the game still. And they don't believe that 50% is appropriate for restaurants because you could have a 20% decline and still be in fear of going out of business. I think the most current number they think they'll settle on is maybe 30 or 35%, but Melissa said it's early in the game.
Again, P3 wait, we will flesh out more. There is, I can tell you that between our national organizations are just laser focused on making sure that we get all the help we can in terms of the P3 in the second round. Are alcohol slushies included in the late 11 p.m. stop for to-go beverages? Yes. Alcohol slushies, wine slushies, any of that, that's all part of the 11 p.m. stop for to-go beverages. That is state law. Thank you, Mike. I don't know if we're the restaurant heroes, but we'll try. Roundtable for the region that includes Bedford County. Did I miss it, or is there not one scheduled yet, or is it yet to be scheduled? Would love to participate if one happens. I don't know if Heidi's on the call, or if we can bring up the map. Is Bedford included in West, or is that part of, I think that's an untouched area right now.
That is an untouched area right now.
We scheduled
Maggie,
one.
if you think,
We scheduled one for
Sorry, go ahead.
Susquehanna, which was also an extra one, not an extra one, but in addition to the active chapter. So if there's enough demand, I think Melissa was going to say, Heidi can do that.
Yep. Yeah, we're happy to schedule something if you think you can drive up the support. Like I said, we are a little short-staffed at PRLA, so we really need your help to make these a success. So if you think that there's support in the area, we're happy to organize it and set it up. And then is there something that municipalities should be doing to help the industry? Municipalities are, they can be speaking to the county to encourage more grants and more financial support to the industry. I think that's important. I will say, for municipalities, one of the things that we've been hearing is maybe some pushback in terms of the outdoor seating and giving you the flexibility to use creative spaces, citing zoning issues or things like that. So any of those zoning headaches that you're running into in your effort to be creative are something that your municipalities can help you with and your township supervisors can assist you with. So I would say that's probably a key thing to be discussing with them is outdoor dining, and we heard it. I was surprised. I think John was a little surprised yesterday, and we've been hearing it more and more. A lot of you are saying that people don't necessarily want to eat inside yet. So outdoor dining is going to probably be out there with heat lamps and blankets and however you decide to do it for a while. So that's going to be something you're going to need your municipalities to help with, especially if they're thinking this is a hard stop, you know, after Labor Day or something like that. So that's something to focus on. And then Philip's going to write a brief statement. Thank you to read at the Roundtable in Lancaster, summarizing experiences. Thank you, Philip. I will be sure to call on you for that. You have a few hours to get that completed. And we are near, you guys all know that we have a 1 o'clock roundtable, so you're going to give me a chance to like eat a salad or have a sip of water before that. So thank you. I think we'll give it another minute. Like I said, we will get a Philadelphia webinar set up. Is there any discussion with moving outdoor dining to more than 50 people in Allegheny County? They could, I mean, they could do that now if they wanted to. State's 250 for outdoor. We have not heard, John, I don't know if you've had any recent conversations with the county executive. I think, and I'm going to be honest with this, our issue right now, universities and colleges aside, don't get me started on what I think is going to be an increase in cases because of students going back to school. With the K through 12 schools going back in, this was the entire basis for the governor's mitigation, whether reasonable or not. Until they're back in school, I think we're going to be where we are for another few weeks. We're pushing, and like I said, these roundtables, they're back in session next week. We can start moving bills next week and putting the pressure on. But I think without that legislative pressure, I think we're going to be stuck where we are until the schools are back in. I know every day they go virtual, but I think that's our issue right now. So I don't expect a ton of changes until they're back in.
I think that's good, Melissa. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. As always, we've recorded this. We'll send this out to all that have participated, and we'll post this up on our website. And with that being said, we're going to give Melissa and John a little break between this and the next roundtable. We hope you all join us on our upcoming roundtables within your own regions. And everybody have a safe and wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks,
you all.
everyone.